What's up, everybody? Today on the show, we're going to be previewing the Ducks and Buckeyes National Championship game. There's controversy in Dallas, and looks like the Bengals are still the Bengals. All that and much, much more right here on Into the Voyd.
What you want.
Hello and good afternoon, everybody. How's it going? Yeah, thank you for joining me on this January 5th, 2015 episode. It's the first episode of 2015, and it's also episode 2. You guys may have catched my first episode, which happened to be on New Year's Eve. It was really just a kind of a sample episode for me in particular, just kind of trying to get the final kinks out and everything. There's still much to learn, obviously, but I'm feeling pretty confident. I'm hoping this is the beginning of something large and significant to my future, and I hope you guys are here along the ride with me, enjoying it and having a lot of fun along the way. A little bit about myself. I didn't really get too much in detail with this on last Wednesday, which is the aforementioned episode 1 of Into the Voyd. This is the Into the Voyd podcast. I am the host, RJ Voyd, as always. And a little bit about me is I'm just your common everyday guy. I got a 9-to-5 job working a factory, steel manufacturing plant. Just hard every day's work, and I come home and I got a nice family I love and love to spend time with, and I'm just a big passionate sports fan as well, and I love talking about sports anytime I'm with my family, friends. Typically that's what a lot of the conversations seem to revolve around, and I wanted to share that passion and these discussions that I have with these people and with you guys, and just to sit down here as everyday guys. Not experts, not analysts that you see on TV or people who do this for a living. This isn't my job. This is not what I do for a living. This is just a hobby of mine. And we're just going to sit down, have some fun with it, maybe get some laughs along the way. Just all in all, just enjoy ourselves and have a lot of fun. But, of course, moving right along, as I mentioned in the introduction of the show, last Thursday, New Year's Day, we had our first semifinals. Our 2 semifinal games for the NCAA football. Oregon Ducks, the number 2 seed, completely dominated Florida State, the number 3 seed. Completely destroyed them. They won 59-20. Marcus Mariota looked pretty damn good. In all honesty, the offense is there to benefit him. It benefits quarterbacks in general, but either way, he still looked good. The Ducks still looked good. Florida State, Jameis Winston and the defending champions, Florida State Seminoles, they checked out of the game. It seemed early, maybe not early on, but certainly as the points kept hitting, and their luck continued to dwindle. They eventually, you could just tell. You could just see it. I watched this game. Didn't get to watch the other game, which I'll talk about here in a second. But you can see that the Florida State Seminoles, they checked out of the game probably in mid to late third quarter, and throughout the rest of the game. They gave up. They stopped putting up a fight, and lucky for them. And look, the final score was 59-20. Okay? That was the final score. It could have been a lot worse. The Oregon Ducks kind of let their foot off the gas pedal there towards the end a little bit. Gave them gave Florida State at least that tiny shred, the possibility of getting that tiny little shiver of some pride and dignity back at the end of the game. But yeah, Oregon Ducks completely ran away with it. On the contrary, the other game, the other semifinal, Alabama against Ohio State. Alabama, number 1 ranked. Ohio State, number 4 ranked. Ohio State beat out the Crimson Tide 42-35. And in this game, while the Ducks and the Seminoles, Oregon and Florida State, even though that game was so very lopsided, so one-sided, and it was just a blowout, this game, I didn't get to watch it. Saw the highlights, read up on what happened to it. I did catch a few minutes of it. Didn't get to watch the whole thing. But this game was so much closer. Ohio State beat them, but it was going either way. And the one impressive thing about Ohio State's win is the fact that they were working on the third-string quarterback. Other than that, really previewing this national championship game now, Oregon Ducks versus Ohio State Buckeyes. It's going to be next Monday, I think. January 12th, yeah. Next Monday, January 12th at 8:30 on ESPN. Now, I don't follow college football that much. I have been a lot more lately. This playoff format that they've implemented for this season definitely has garnered my interest. And so I'm following it a little bit more. I'm finding myself looking up on news and headlines and articles revolving around college football a lot more so than I have in previous seasons. But that all being said, I'm nowhere near close to a diehard fan, or very far away from being a true fan, I guess you could say, of college football, because I don't follow it all that much. That being said, seeing as how well the Ducks played on Thursday, because I did watch that game, like I said, they played so well. They played so dominantly against a rather good and undefeated. Let's not forget that Florida State was undefeated. A rather good Florida State team. They completely demolished them, just embarrassed them even. And then Ohio State barely getting that win over Alabama. Alabama, a very good team. Ohio State, a very good team. Both with 1 or 2 wins, I'm not sure, but both of them have wins. They're both closer on the level, and just barely being able to push out Alabama. I have a hard time. I'm going to watch this game. It's going to be the first national championship game I've ever watched. Yes, true story. And but I'm definitely going to look into it. I'm going to watch it. It's a night game, so I probably won't be able to see the whole thing because I got to work the next morning, obviously. But I'm going to look into it. I'm going to watch as much of it as I can with a high peaking interest. But I have a gut feeling, just based off of what I saw out of Oregon and knowing what I've read about and seen briefly from the Ohio State-Alabama game, I have a hard time believing that Oregon just doesn't completely run away with it. And maybe not run away with it. Let me retract that comment. But I have a hard time believing that Oregon doesn't come out as the champions this year, as Marcus Mariota comes into his final season. I'm pretty sure it's his final season. He's almost for sure going into the draft this year. So, but moving away from college football now, wild card weekend is in the books. All 4 wild card matchups done, over with, and we're looking into the division round of the NFL playoffs. A couple of things that stick out from this weekend. I mentioned earlier at the beginning there, controversy in Dallas. Now, the last night's game, Detroit Lions at Dallas Cowboys, I didn't get to witness the entire game. Again, my family, my girlfriend, my daughter, and her family finally got back after a week of being in Florida. So I went and saw them at night. They got home late at night. So I went home and I visited them, got to see them a little bit, missed the entire second half of this game, which, from what I understand, was the most exciting part of not only that game, but of all 4 wild card matchups. So, when I was watching the first half, I saw that Detroit was up. It was 14-7, I think. But Detroit was just playing so well. They were just, everything that they were doing seemed to be going well for them. and Dallas just didn't seem to be able to get anything moving for them at all. And they got the touchdown obviously before the half, but at the half there, I was skeptical that Dallas would be able to come back anyway, even though I had them picked before the game started. But I was really disappointed in their performance at that point in time, so I didn't really make it a big deal to look into it. Unfortunately for me, because then I wake up the next morning, read the headlines: Dallas rallies to beat the Detroit Lions. Looking at the box score there, Detroit held a 20-7 lead about midway through the third quarter, and Dallas comes back from that deficit. That's pretty nice. Obviously Dallas showed up at the end of the game. The Dallas Cowboys that I thought were coming into the game showed up at the end of the game. Whoever was there, the imposters at the beginning, they ceased to exist, and the real Dallas Cowboys showed up to play. But the controversy that I was talking about earlier, that all came at the very last. I heard that the last 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes, around that time of the entire game, was some of the most intense moments of this entire season. Some controversies that came out of it was there was a flag thrown. Again, I don't know all the details. I didn't see it. There was a flag thrown, a penalty marker thrown that was never amounted to anything. A ref threw the penalty flag, went over and picked it up, didn't say anything. No explanation for it. It was it was this huge uproar about it this morning anyway. Reaction to it, I guess what I'm trying to say. Huge reaction revolving around it is that there was a pass interference. That was apparently what the penalty flag was supposed to be for, but they never actually called the penalty. Went over, like I said, picked up the flag, didn't really call any penalty, even though everybody was calling for this pass interference call. And then it was Brandon Pettigrew was the Lions player who was trying to catch the ball, and Hankins, I think, was the Dallas defender that was supposed to get called for it anyway. But it rose some controversy regarding, like, look, maybe the officiating team had it out for Dallas, or they had it out for Detroit, because there was a lot of boneheaded things in this game at the end there that just kind of was just odd, It was just off. You had this pass interference call, penalty flag thrown, which was clear pass interference. From what I understand, clear pass interference. You had that penalty, which the flag was thrown for, but not called. Therefore, nothing happened there. Apparently, the Pettigrew, the Detroit Lions player who was the receiver, apparently he had his hands in the face mask of the Dallas defender, and that was a penalty that didn't call. And then you have Dallas Cowboys wide receiver Des Bryant coming out onto the field arguing with the referee. That's fine, that happens. But the big problem was, and this isn't like a huge controversy, but it's just one of those things where, why wasn't he called for this? He goes out on the field, starts arguing with the referee without his helmet on. And we all know you're not allowed to be on the field without a helmet on, if at all. And usually that would garner a unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, I think, or unsportsmanlike conduct. Pretty sure that's what it would be. But yes, usually that would garner an unsportsmanlike conduct call. It wasn't called. It wasn't even acknowledged. There was so much chaos, and from what I understand, just chaos revolving around these last moments of this game. And then, but it's great. But look, the best team won. I mean, that's all I can say about that. I really regret not being able. I don't want to say I regret, because I really don't. I got to see my family. I got to see my kid and Danielle, who I haven't seen in over a week. So it was. So I regret not seeing this whole thing go down, but at the same time, I don't regret it, if that makes any sense whatsoever. But I really wish that I could have at least seen all this going down and happening there, just so I can get a first-hand account of it for myself and see it for myself with my own eyes, make my own judgment on it first. That way I have more to talk about, more to tell you guys about it. But yeah, apparently it was just a really crazy, really hectic, chaotic, 5 minutes that ended with Dallas defeating Detroit 24-20. Dallas moves on. Detroit once again loses in the first round of the playoffs. Detroit's got themselves a good team, built around a good team. Matthew Stafford, I have the utmost faith in. I think he was slightly inconsistent this year. Not slightly, he was inconsistent this year. For whatever reason that may be, but they got a nice solid group around them, and I really think that with a few moves here and there, Jim Caldwell is a wonderful head coach, and I think a great addition to that team. They got a few pieces that they need to move around or deal with, and before I think they can go any further in the playoffs in the years to come. But I really think this team has got the talent on it. Stafford, Calvin Johnson, some of the Ndamukong Suh. There's a lot of rumors going around that Ndamukong Suh will probably not sign with the team. I'm not sure if he's a free agent or if he's a restricted free agent or what he is, but I know that there's been a lot of talk going around, regarding movement of Ndamukong Suh, which would be a very tough loss for this team, defensively in particular, because he's really the only solidified player on their defense. He's essentially their anchor. He's the captain of the defense. So it would be a huge loss, but just on offense, just the head coach, I think they got a good solid team, but just obviously now wasn't their year. Like I said, Dallas this year is playing incredibly. Tony Romo is playing just unbelievably well. DeMarco Murray having a record-setting year. Des Bryant, as we know, is one of the best wide receivers in the league. They got a solid defense, contrary to what you may have thought about, what we all may have thought at the beginning of the season. Dallas, I think, and I told you guys this on Wednesday when I was previewing this game. Like I said, they didn't show up at the beginning of this game, but they definitely put it on to high gear, and they showed up in the second half. Dallas has got a incredibly talented team, and I believe that they were going to make a very solid run. I think in the NFC Championship game, my pick is it goes down between Dallas and the Seahawks. I haven't made up my mind about who I think's going to win that one yet, but I digress. I'll get into that a little bit later. Another bit of controversy that came out of this game that's more comical to me that I just want to kind of close out this section with real fast. There's controversy. Maybe it's just in the New York City area. I listen to Boomer and Carton in the morning. It's a sports talk show in the morning on WFAN, CBS Sports Network and whatnot. I listen to that at work on my radio, and so maybe this is isolated for that. Basically, it's a broadcast from the New York City area, New York, New Jersey, upstate New York, etc. But so maybe it's isolated to that area in particular, which would make sense. But another bit that they were talking about, or at least that became apparent throughout the show today, was the New Jersey. Sorry, my phone's going off. A lot of interruptions, a lot of things happening in this episode that are kind of aggravating me. So I apologize for all that. Please bear with me. I'm brand new at this kind of stuff. But the New Jersey governor, Chris Christie, mostly we probably heard of him. He attended the game this Sunday in Dallas. He's a huge Dallas Cowboys fan. And he attended the game alongside Jerry Jones, the Dallas Cowboys owner and general manager. He was in their box, and the controversy erupted when obviously his team wins, or maybe his team did something great during the game or whatever. But there was big controversy erupting that the New Jersey governor was high-fiving and hugging and celebrating with Jerry Jones of Dallas, which is obviously specifically the Giants and the Cowboys have a huge rivalry. New York team doesn't really like the Dallas team, and the fan bases are they do the same thing. So there's a huge controversy that erupted about this, saying for whatever reason, I don't even know what the controversy is about. It's just like they're people are bitching about this apparently. What I have to say about it is simple: what does this care? What does it matter? Who cares? If this guy is a Cowboys fan, let him celebrate. This is the first Cowboys playoff victory that they've had. I don't even know how many years, but it's been quite some time. Let them celebrate. I know for a fact that if I was the governor of Massachusetts, I'd still be a Jets fan. Nothing would tear me away from being a Jets fan, as much as I hate being a Jets fan, as much as I hate being stuck with this debacle of a team. Nothing's going to tear me away from being a fan and rooting for them. So if I was the governor of Massachusetts and the Jets beat the Patriots in the playoffs, you damn well better believe that I'm going to be celebrating with everybody else. I don't give a shit. It doesn't matter. That's his favorite team. It's a sports team, okay? He's not a sports figure. It's not like he was the commissioner of the league like Roger Goodell celebrating down there, obviously showing favoritism and bias towards that team. No, he's the governor. He's a politician. Completely irrelevant in the realm of sports. So why should it matter who he's celebrating with, who he's rooting for, who he's cheering for? It doesn't matter. It shouldn't even be fucking news. But people were bitching about that all this morning, and it was making headlines in New York City newspapers, and I know media has a lot to do with that too, but it's comical to me seeing how, and it's the same way with, and I don't want to get too much into this because it's a touchy subject. I'll save that for maybe a different day. But the Ray Rice situation, the NFL's got this new, this big movement now, or this big, oh God, what's the word I'm looking for here? This big movement now against domestic violence. So it's just so happens that you started this campaign. That's the word I was looking for. Excuse me. It just so happens that you started this huge campaign against domestic violence only after some of your star players began to be kind of embroiled in controversy revolving their domestic violence trials and court things and whatnot. Not because it's the right, and to me it just does the same thing. It shows to me that they're not doing it because they don't believe. I mean, obviously they don't believe in domestic violence. They don't believe it should be condoned or whatever. But this campaign, all it's telling me is like, you guys are just in damage control mode. You don't really give a shit right now because you don't think any differently of domestic violence than you did before the Ray Rice situation, and you're only doing this to kind of maybe egg those people to say, hey, look, we don't really condone this. We're just trying to save our own asses right now. That's all it is to me. And that's, I totally got off topic there. But it's the same thing with that. It's like, look, just because this governor went to this game and he was celebrating for his own team, and he happens to be the governor of New Jersey, and he's a Dallas Cowboys fan. So what? It doesn't matter. It's the same thing with the Ray Rice. He's not the first person to, he's not the first person to do this whole domestic violence thing. Domestic violence has been a problem throughout history. It's just not, but now because this famous guy did it, now it's a problem. Same thing with this. I mean, I guess not the same thing. I guess it is quite different. But you see what I'm saying? It's like, why does it matter? Just because Chris Christie is in the spotlight, so to speak, because of his position, he's a politician and the governor and whatnot. Who gives a shit who he roots for? Sports doesn't affect politics. Maybe it does. I don't see the connection. So why should there be a connection? Why should I care who he roots for, who he celebrates with? I don't. And I don't think anybody should. It's just one of those things that I guess I'll never understand. But yeah, that's, before I get dragged that on for too long, let's move on. The Cincinnati Bengals playoff woes continue. Of course, the Colts destroyed The Colts beat the Bengals 26-10 yesterday as well, Sunday. It was the afternoon game. Andrew Luck looked amazing, as always. There's not much more you can say about Andrew Luck than that. He looked amazing. He's having an amazing season. And there's little doubt in my mind that he is not the real deal. There's no question about it. Andy Dalton, on the other hand, very inconsistent. Let's keep this into perspective, okay? I'm going to try and stay on topic this time. I tend to ramble on and kind of roll off topic a little bit, as you guys have probably already noticed, excuse me, and I apologize for that. But Andy Dalton, keeping it in perspective, he's led this team to 4 straight playoff appearances. Marvin Lewis, let me look at this real fast. Marvin Lewis, in 12 seasons as the Bengals head coach, Marvin Lewis is 190. That's 10 games above 500. That's his record, 190. 6 playoff appearances. Like I said, this is his 4th one straight. So he's had 4 straight. Every year that Andy Dalton has been the starting quarterback for the Bengals, he's gotten him to the playoff spot. Marvin Lewis, as the head coach, his head coaching record in playoff games, 0-6. He has never won a game. His first playoff run was in 2005. I think the second one, I have to think back here. Second one was either in 2009 or 2010. It was the first Rex Ryan year. I know that because I remember the Jets beat the Bengals in the first round. That's how I looked at it. So it's either 2009 or 2010. So those are the 2 appearances, and then Andy Dalton comes in, 4 straight playoff berths. Now, obviously, they've lost all 4 first round games, knocked out in the first round, one and done. There's a lot of people. Now, I've always seemed to defend Andy Dalton. I've always seen him play, and I've always liked what I saw from him. And the Bengals fan base is very, very, again, I always seem to lose the words that I'm looking for here. They're very, they don't have a whole lot of patience with him. They're very, everywhere I looked, let me rephrase that. I never understood why. I always liked Andy Dalton. I always liked what I saw from him. But then I talk to Bengals fans and hear Bengals fans talking and everything, and it would have the exact opposite thing. All I'm looking at in my head, 3 straight playoff appearances, gives them 10 wins a season. This kid's pretty good. Then I hear them always talking about, he sucks. We can't trust him. Why'd you give him this much money? And I never quite understood it until this season. I've paid a little more attention to him this season, and for the first time, I finally think I understand where the Bengals fans are coming from. Because it always seems like, first, obviously, the playoff games aside, 4 straight now, after yesterday, 4 straight now, one and done playoff appearances. Aside from those playoff appearances, even in the regular season, it always seems like when the game mattered or when the game was in the spotlight, I'm talking about prime time games, Andy Dalton always seems to choke. He chokes under the pressure. And I noticed that this year. So I went looking back and I did some research on it, and this has been a pattern throughout his entire career. Anytime the game it's one of those important games, like a playoff game, or it's a prime time nationally televised game, he always seems to choke. I can't remember what it was. It was one of those stat scientist people that you have on ESPN and CBS Sports and Fox Sports or whatever. But I heard a statistic. It was before one of the games earlier in the season. But I heard a statistic that in primetime games, Andy Dalton, and this was again earlier in the season, Andy Dalton at that time was like 2-15 or something like that in primetime. Like somewhere, it was like some bad ratio. It dawned on me, and it became very apparent to me that now I understand where the Bengals fans are coming from. That being said, something's got to be changed here, in my opinion. If it was up to me, and if you're asking for my opinion, I think that Marvin Lewis he's been here 12 years, made 6 playoff appearances, which is pretty good. That's half of the seasons that he's coached. He's made it to the playoffs. Obviously, won and done all 6 times. That's not a very good ratio right there in and of itself. But I'll get back to that in a second. But 10 games above 500, it's just one of those things where I just think it's time. Marvin Lewis has been here long enough. You need to do something. It's obvious that this is the pattern that's going to continue to happen. You know, you don't just go 0-6 in the playoffs, and it's just a random it's a fluke or something. It doesn't happen that way. You don't go prime time games like that, and it's just a fluke. So I look at the common denominator there. I really wish I would have looked back and researched how the Bengals as a team did in prime time before Andy Dalton got here. I think that'd be interesting to find out. If you guys if you want to do your research on that yourself and let me know, just find it, comment it, and let me know. In the Marvin Lewis era, how have the Bengals been in primetime games? If you can figure that out, let me know in the comments or something, because I'd really like to know that. It'd be an interesting statistic. But if you're only 10 games over 500 as a career coaching record, and you've been here 12 years already, you've had no playoff success. You've had success getting there, but none at all once the games actually started to matter. I honestly believe that it's time to make a change. And so the big question is, all right, so do you change Marvin Lewis? Do you change Andy Dalton? Or do you change both? And I would venture, again, this is all my opinion. This is all just from what I have gathered. I'm not a Bengals fan. I don't follow them religiously, so I don't know every single detail like many Bengals fans might. But everything that I've done my research on, everything that I've gathered in the past just by watching the games that I have and being in the environment, the Bengals fan base, right in the middle of it, like I am. My honest opinion is, if I was to choose out of those 3, Lewis, Dalton, or both, I honestly say go with Lewis. I think you need to fire Marvin Lewis. He's been here long enough. He's kind of, we know what we're getting from him. He's not a bad coach. I'm not saying that. He's a very talented coach, and he does a very good job. But in all honesty, I just think this pattern is much too go. And the reason why I say keep Andy Dalton is because, like I said, 4 straight playoff appearances. Now, obviously, the primetime spot and the pressure situation is a clear problem that will need to be addressed with Andy Dalton. However, 6 playoff appearances for Marvin Lewis. All 4 of them the last 4 are 4 straight and are all headed by Andy Dalton. Every year Andy Dalton's been here, he has gotten them to the playoffs. That, I think, is enough reason to have enough faith in him anyway to give him somebody else to work with. Get rid of Marvin Lewis, make a change in the head coaching department and the coaching staff. Let somebody else kind of tweak and mess with Andy Dalton and see what they can get out of him before you make your judgment on him. Because he's still a very young kid, you know, and he wasn't this top college prospect. He wasn't like this first round or sure thing. Nobody was saying, I don't even remember Andy Dalton being the big name in the draft. He really wasn't, I don't think. He was expected maybe be a backup quarterback or a serviceable quarterback or a journeyman or something like that. And I think that they have struck, maybe not gold, but I think that they have really found a very good potential, a lot of potential in Andy Dalton. And I don't think you give up on him this easily. I think maybe get somebody else to kind of put pressure on him and give him some competition in the offseason and maybe make him fight for his starting job. And even if he loses it, fine. Then you at least know. But I don't think just getting him out of there right now at this stage in his career, and at this stage is what he's done 4 years in a row at getting you 10 wins a season. I don't think you give up on him that fast, but that's just my opinion. But anyway, Colts beat the Bengals 26-10. They move on. They're going to be facing New England, I think. I'll get to that here in a second as well. Real quick, in other news, we're running here on a 35-minute mark already. Time flew by in this episode today. But just real quick, I'm going to run through some of the other news. The Carolina Panthers defeated the Arizona Cardinals in the playoffs 27-16. The Panthers will go on. They will be facing the Seattle Seahawks in the division round. The Baltimore Ravens defeat the Steelers, their division rivals. The Steelers 30-17. They move on. They'll be playing. No, scratch that. Indianapolis will go to Denver. They'll play the Broncos, and the Ravens will go to New England, and they'll play the Patriots. The Rams owner, Stan Kroenke, I think is how you pronounce his name, he announced his plans to build a stadium in the Los Angeles area. He's partnered with some kind of group or special finance group or special sports organization to build this, I think it was 80,000 seat stadium in the Los Angeles area. And obviously there's been a lot of talk the past couple of months, well, even back a whole year, about how the Rams are one of the prime teams expected to maybe make that move back to the West and go and move the team to Los Angeles. This is kind of that, even though it's not an official thing, he's announced the plans. He's partnered with this organization, and they have plans to build this stadium. But what it all comes down to is if the Rams organization can come to an agreement with their current stadium. I don't know exactly what they're trying to get for it, but if those negotiations break down, then yes, it is a very, very high possibility that you could be seeing the St. Louis Rams move over to the west to Los Angeles. And this, coupled with the fact that last year around this time, Stan Kroenke had just purchased 60 acres of land over in Los Angeles. He's from Los Angeles, as far as I know. So it's very, all the signs, the three teams that I've heard in this argument here, the Oakland Raiders, San Diego Chargers, and the St. Louis Rams, all the signs, all the evidence points, for the most part, more so on St. Louis than the other two teams to be the team to move over. Jaromir Jagr over in the NHL. Jaromir Jagr becomes the oldest player to score the hat trick in the NHL history. He's 42 years old. He scored the hat trick in the Devils' 5-2 win over the Philadelphia Flyers on Sunday. A lingering leg injury could force the New York Knicks to take Carmelo Anthony out for a significant amount of time. Now, obviously, Anthony's been dealing with this so-called injury for quite some time, or at least that's what they're saying. My opinion on the matter is, fine, let him miss a significant amount of time. In fact, you don't even need to worry about benching him or putting him on some kind of health-related thing. You need to worry about getting him out of town. That's the main focus for the Knicks. The Knicks are so bad. During this football season, I didn't think that there could be a possible worse New York sports team than the Jets. Really, this whole season has just been such a disaster for the Jets. I thought they had the title for worst New York team. The Knicks are really, really trying to make that a hard argument to make. They need to get rid of they need to clear house. They have no idea what they're doing. It doesn't look like they don't have no team chemistry. They don't seem to want to play for their coach. It's just a massive disaster and a mess over there in Madison Square Garden for the Knicks. Just complete mess. The divisional round picks now on Saturday. We're going to go through our divisional round games real fast, then wrap it up with RJ's top 5 and close out our game here now that we're hitting the 40-minute mark. Division round picks. Saturday at 4:35 p.m., the Baltimore Ravens head over to New England to face the Patriots. This one, to me, is a very interesting matchup, seeing as how the Ravens played, how Joe Flacco played. Look, have all your doubts about Joe Flacco in the regular season. He plays, when he gets to the playoffs, he steps his game up. And I know I kind of spoke badly about him on Wednesday, But now that I saw what he did on Saturday against the Steelers, he can make it a difficult game for Tom Brady and company and Bill Belichick, the evil empire, if you will. But at the end of the day, I think the Patriots are just so much. They always seem to know how to win. They really do. And Foxborough, New England, of course, their home stadium, Gillette. It's such a hard place to win. My pick here goes to the Patriots to move on to the AFC Championship game. The other Saturday game at 8:15 p.m., the Carolina Panthers will go to Seattle. Much like Foxborough, Seattle is probably the toughest place to play a road game at. Carolina Panthers already being a very miserable team as it is, just barely making the playoffs, and that's only because their entire division sucks. There's no way the Carolina Panthers win against Seattle. There shouldn't be any reason why. If the Carolina Panthers do go in and somehow beat Seattle, there is something extremely wrong with that picture, and somebody needs to look into that, because that'd be a conspiracy right there. On Sunday, 1:05 p.m., 5 after 1, Dallas Cowboys in Lambeau Field. That's right, Green Bay Packers. Cowboys, Packers. Oh man, this is a tough matchup for me. Real quick, just in the idea of getting this without running over time too much, I'm gonna have to go with Dallas. I think Dallas is the hotter team. I really like Aaron Rodgers. I really think that Green Bay's offense is just incredible. But I really think the Dallas Cowboys, it's their time. I know I said earlier Dallas and Seattle in the NFC Championship, and I'm sticking with that. I really think Dallas is just playing on a whole nother level that they haven't seen in a long, long time. And it's this year, this is their time to kind of take that next step. And I think they could be, again, not sure if they could beat the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle. They have already once this year, though. You got to remember that. They went into Seattle and they beat Seattle there. But my pick is the Cowboys over the Packers. And then you got Sunday at 4:40 p.m., the Indianapolis Colts at Denver. Another tough matchup for me, and this is probably one that I'm going to be interested in watching the most out of these four. I'm going to go on a limb, and I'm going to go against the obvious pick, and I'm going to say I'm going to go with the Indianapolis Colts. I think Andrew Luck really has. I think Andrew Luck really is something special. They have a couple of nice wide receivers. T.Y. Hilton. They got a lot of talent on that team. If they can keep that Denver Broncos, and plus the other question is Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning is the exact opposite of Eli Manning. Eli Manning always seems to do okay in the regular season, always keeps his team afloat, it seems, and then he gets to the postseason, the playoffs, and that's when he kicks it in the high gear. His older brother Peyton, the exact opposite. He does phenomenally well in the regular season, and then when it comes time for the postseason, the playoffs, yeah, not so much. He either chokes during the run to the Super Bowl, or he just doesn't show up to the Super Bowl, i.e. last Super Bowl against the Seattle Seahawks. Those are my picks, and now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for RJ's top 5 of the day. All right, everybody. Like I mentioned once on Wednesday, top 5 is going to be my closing remarks of the day. I'm going to count down my top 5. Could be any subject. Today, the subject is top 5 favorite Jets players of all time. At number 5, I'm going with Vinny Testaverde. Now, these are all my personal favorites. Remember that. Number 5 is Vinny Testaverde, the quarterback who was with the Jets from 1998 until 2003. He led the Jets to the AFC Championship game in 98, and he had success with the team for the next, up until he left the team, of course. A couple of injury-prone seasons there kind of kept him from seeing the same success that he had his first year there. But I grew up watching this guy, and he remains at my number 5. Number 4, Wesley Walker, wide receiver from 1977 to 1989. He spent his entire career with the Jets, and I think he's on the top all-time receiving yards list for the team. And the one thing that I really liked about him He was legally blind in one eye. For him to be able to play that long with the league, not astronomical numbers, he's not a Hall of Famer, but he certainly plays with a passion if he can overcome a handicap like that. Number 3 is Joe Klecko, defensive lineman, which is a defensive tackle and an end from 1977 from 1987 to 1987. Excuse me. He was a notoriously tough player, rough, always playing with a mean streak. He was a member of the New York Sack Exchange, and and the one thing I really liked about him a lot, not only was he a great player, but he was a versatile player. He played all positions on that defensive line. Defensive end, defensive tackle, nose tackle. You needed him to go if you needed anybody on that defensive line at any position, you just get him and he'll fill it for you, and he will play at all-star, Pro Bowl levels at that position, regardless of where it is. Number 2, Kevin Mawai. Surprising, right? Kevin Mawai was the center from 1998 to 2005. The reason why I put Kevin Mawai on this list is because he was always a team leader. He was always recognizable in the huddle, and I always liked offensive linemen. I like following offensive linemen because they're kind of the underappreciated members of a team, it seems. Whenever you're looking at the star players on a team, it looks like the offensive linemen are always overlooked. Kevin Mawai stood out above the rest. He was Pro Bowler. If he's not a Hall of Famer yet, I have no doubt he will be in the Hall of Fame, and that's why he makes my number 2 on the all-time favorite Jets players of all time. And number 1, my number 1 favorite Jets player of all time, wide receiver from 95 to 2005, Wayne Chrebet. He is the ultimate underdog. He was undrafted at a Hofstra University and a walk-on tryout. He played with so much passion and heart that it outweighed his physical limitations. He was a very small guy. He was 5'10", 188 pounds, very small for a wide receiver. He would often put his body on the line just to make those catches, not for himself, not for his stats, but for his team, to help his team win. He was the ultimate team player, and that's why he's my all-time favorite Jets player of all time, and, spoiler alert, my favorite athlete of all time. Thank you, Wayne Chrebet, for all the great memories. I saw you playing all around the league. Well, as a Jet all around the league. Thank you very much. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was RJ's Top 5. And that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode 2. Again, let me know what you guys think. Credits real fast. All music credits go to Kevin MacLeod. MacLeod from just go to incompetech.com. You'll find a link to it, as well as all the necessary credits in the show notes on the website or wherever you're looking at this from. Special thanks goes to my Aunt Shirley. She passed away just a few weeks ago. She was such a kind person and a huge heart. She went out of her way to help so many people, and just want to let you know that you will be missed and you will never ever be forgotten. Thank you for such great memories as well, and for shaping this family into becoming the wholehearted family that it really is, and this close-knit family that I've grown up adoring and being very happy to be a part of. Again, guys, leave me your feedback, comment, discuss, let me know anything that you think I can do better. Just feedback is all I want from you guys. I want to get better so I can put on a better show for you guys, help you guys stay entertained, maybe make you laugh a little bit. But I want to create a better show for you. So let me know. Feedback, positives, negatives, whatever it is, I don't care. Just let me know what it is. Just let me know what you thought of the show. Like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Into the Voyd. That's Voyd spelled VOYD. And you can follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/RJVoyd. That's RJAYVOYD. Thank you all once again. I'll see you next Monday for episode 3.